Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Big Sky Now podcast. I am your host, Josh Amick, and this week we are missing one from the panel, but we have the usual suspects. Fritz, Mark, and Ian are here. So we're going to get into what happened over the weekend as the season is slowly dwindling down. And we have to start off this episode with a bit of history. If you didn't catch it, Junior Bergen for Montana Grizzlies set the Big Sky record for punt returns in a career with 6 career punt return touchdowns. Montana went on to beat Cal Poly last week 42-7 before their big game this week against UC Davis. Fritz, what do you think stood out to you in this game besides Bergen?
Well, I'm not sure anything else really compares to what Bergen did, because it was kind of a 14-0 slog when they forced the punt, and he was able to take it to the house. You know, it's 6 for him. Corey Smith for Montana State had the record of 5. He had 4 of them in 2003, which I don't remember. I do remember Smith taking a kickoff back to the house against the Bobcats that year. But besides Bergen, I think it falls down a little bit, and then you have Keelan White making that one-handed touchdown grab. And, it ended up 42-7, and it seemed like a lot closer game until Bergen got loose.
Outside of that stellar performance for Bergen, I'm going to go with the defense in this one. It's now back-to-back games where Montana's defense is kind of getting back into shape compared to a couple weeks ago in those, Weber State and Eastern Washington games. Shut out till I think midway in the fourth quarter or something like that. It's just kind of obviously not against the strongest competition in the Big Sky these last couple of weeks, but definitely a point that they can build on as they get into some tough games heading down the stretch of their regular season.
Yeah, it didn't start out too well for them when they kind of botched the opening kickoff and had to go back and get it and ended up starting on their 11. Even watching the game, even though the score wasn't showing it, it kind of looked like Montana was in control, even though it was only 14-0 until late in the third. And then Bergen gets the punt return touchdown. Then they get back-to-back interceptions, turn those into scores, and then that's that. But it did look like Montana was pretty much in control of that game. It took a while for the score to catch up to how much they were in control of it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see this week, because I don't think Montana can afford to start slow this week against UC Davis. And but I do like that fact that you brought up their defense, Ian, because I do feel like it is improving. And I guess this weekend will be the true test to see how much they have improved. Another great game was by Dante Chachere, who had a huge game with 5 total touchdowns. And Portland State's surprising win, or not surprising, depending on how you look at it, over Sac State. Sacramento State was a preseason top 10 FCS team. And with their schedule, they might even lose out. So what has happened with the Hornets this year, Ian?
Yeah, I was kind of asking myself the same question on Saturday while this game was being played. And I guess I've been kind of asking it for the last couple of weeks. And then you just kind of go back and look at it. It's been a lot of issues on defense this year. I mean, what did they give up on Saturday? Like 58 points, I think. Going back to last year, I think it was 10 of the 11 leading tacklers from last year are gone on this year's team. That's a big thing. It's a big change, especially going year to year. You can fix some things in the transfer portal. You can't fix a kind of mass exodus like that, where you're losing that much talent on the defensive side of the ball. And then obviously going back to turnovers, a big one in the fourth quarter this game that kind of allowed Portland State to really get away with this. I think they were down 2 touchdowns at the time, threw a pick on the first play of a drive, and just kind of ended any attempted comeback in that one.
Yeah, Josh, your question was, what has happened with the Hornets? And like Ian said, defense, it's a defense that hasn't happened for them.
Mm-hmm.
They've given up 34, 35, 48, 30, and 58 points in the last 5 weeks, which obviously is not good. Not a good look for a team that wants to be in the Pac-12 pretty soon. They want to skip over the Mountain West and go all the way up to the Pac-12 and move up to FBS. So,
yeah, I don't see that happening at all with the way they performed. I think if the Pac-12 was smart and wants to keep it competitive, they might go a different way. But Fritz, what did you see in this game?
Yeah, speaking of the Pac-12, I mean, they had a Pac-12 player a year ago, Carmen Scatabo, and who looks really good for Arizona State, by the way. But you look at who they had a quarterback these last couple of years. They had two of them running 2 years ago, O'Hara and Bennett. There's neither one of those guys, Scatabo. Brent Vigen pointed out today that of the 11 starters that started on defense against the Cats last year, none of them are there this year on the two deep. And um, as good as Andy Thompson's reputation is as a defensive coach, it's just too much of a hill to climb when you have 11 starters out.
Yeah, I do appreciate this shout out to Scatterbo with me being an ASU alumni. He just entered the top 10 Heisman watch, so good on him. Northern Arizona picked up a big win, 27-6 over Weber State. And with their schedule, this team could easily get to 8-4 and 5-2 in the Big Sky. Do you think if that is the scenario, that's a good enough record to get them into the playoffs?
Yeah, this win on Saturday is definitely a win that can spark a little bit of a run, especially when you look at their end of the season schedule. I mean, if you blinked in this game and you missed the first touchdown, I mean, they scored a 75-yard touchdown on that first play from scrimmage in this game. It was, I think, 21-0 in the end of the first quarter. And like I said earlier, they have the schedule to put together a end of season run. They go to Cal Poly. They go to Northern Colorado, and their home game is against Eastern in the regular season finale. If they win out, they get to that 7 Division I win threshold. And yeah, I could definitely see them doing that and making it to that point.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they don't really have the pedigree that sometimes gets you in when you're on the fringe. I still think they're kind of on the fringe, even if they get to 8-4, because one of those wins was over a D2 team. I think it kind of depends on how some of the other, third and fourth place teams in the other conferences around the country are doing, whether they get in or not. I guess we'll see. We'll see if they end up 8-4 and they end up getting UC Davis at the end of the year, where you got a team from this league that maybe should have been in, but somehow just didn't get in, and they might be that team. So it'll be interesting.
That's a good callback, Mark, on the UC Davis. I kind of tend to forget about that. A couple things in NU's favor. They're tough at home, like I always thought they should be. That was their 6th straight home win. It's a 2014 bracket. So I think 5 teams from the Big Sky can get in. And their 4 losses are all the ranked teams. If you have to include Arizona, which was ranked in the bowl subdivision, is now 3-6. And then they lost to Idaho and Incarnate Word. And I'm missing one, Montana.
Yep.
So I think they look good. If they're 8-4, they're in.
Yeah, you stole my closing point, Fritz. I appreciate you bringing up their schedule because they haven't had any significant wins over a lot of the opponents in the Big Sky, but all of their losses are to teams that they were expected to lose to. So they're beating teams they're supposed to. So that's a good sign for NAU. When we just kind of touched on it, so we're going to dive a little bit deeper into UC Davis, who cruised to a 59-7 victory over Northern Colorado. It's their 8th straight win on the season. Do we think that this offense specifically, this is the most balanced offense in all of the Big Sky? What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I think you have to say so. Montana State's offense is pretty good, but it's basically run first and then, quarterback run and then pass off of that. And Portland State is run first, quarterback run, and kind of pass off of that. So I think as far as actually you got to worry about both of them, passing and running, yeah, I would say UC Davis is the best balance and the most explosive.
Yeah, I think they are the most balanced, which is saying something in this league because, Eastern's got a great offense, I think, still, even though they didn't have their starting QB last week. And then when you look at, Montana State is run first, run second. So is Montana, sort of. The thing that's notable about Davis is Miles Hastings is just having a great year. He might steal some Player of the Year votes away from Larison, who Bobby Houck described again today as the best player in the league, Lon Larison. So, yeah, they're for real.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to attribute the best unit to a team not named Montana State, but I think I'm gonna give that to UC Davis in here. Miles Hastings leading the Big Sky and passing this season. He's having a tremendous season, like Fritz just mentioned. And Larison, leading the Big Sky in all-purpose yards. He's just under 1,000 rushing and at about, I think it's 500 receiving. He's having a tremendous season as well. So, I mean, when you put those two together, yeah, they are a tremendous offense, and it's setting up for a very exciting matchup against Montana this Saturday.
Yeah, their offense just looks crazy. I mean, Hastings last week was 20 of 26 for 285, and then Larison 14 carries, 143 yards, and they each had 3 touchdowns. So they just look like a really well-oiled machine out there in UC Davis. But the other team we just talked about, Montana State, who might be the second best offense, if not the best offense, time will tell. They pulled away their game against Eastern 42-28. How big was the return of Adam Jones back to this rush-heavy offense, and how big is his return moving forward for the Bobcats, Fritz?
Well, I think it's pretty big. You know, he didn't get a ton of carries, but takes a little pressure off Scottrey Humphrey. I think it allows him to ease Julius Davis back in the lineup. Davis had 4 carries in his first action of the year. I thought the biggest key was Tecmo Bowl Tommy Malak getting loose there after the score became 28-28. But yeah, the way Adam Jones announces a presence with authority, running over a guy, trucking a guy at the 5-yard line on that 20-yard TD. Yeah, he's back, and that helps.
Yeah, I'm not sure they needed him on Saturday with the way Malott was running, but no, it's good to see them kind of getting healthy at the right time late in the season, getting Jones back. And like Fritz just mentioned, I mean, he showed that physicality on that touchdown run. I mean, he leveled that safety like 3 yards out of the end zone to get in there. So no, it's good to see Montana State's running game is, I mean, you didn't think it could get stronger, and then they get stronger by adding some guys back. So that's good to see.
Yeah, how nice is that? You just add a third running back to your arsenal at this point in the season, where most teams, you know, you look at Idaho, they're down to their third running back or fourth running back. I know one of the top 2 played a little bit last week, but they're kind of, you know, deep digging into the depth chart at running back, where Montana has 3 guys that would probably be that would be the number 1 guy on any other team other than, you know, maybe Larison and stuff like that. So that's all the rest of FCS and the Big Sky wanted to see is Montana State getting another running back.
Speaking of Idaho, since they didn't play this week, Mark, is there any word on the health of their running backs coming off the bye week?
No, I talked today. I haven't had a chance to watch that and see what happened, but I would hope Cummings played a little bit last week, and the other guy Thomas, he didn't. So I would think Cummings should be back, and I guess we'll see about Thomas. I guess that's the thing about college is you never know. They don't have to tell you, and you basically don't find out until you show up for the game and you find out that Keikoa Vesperis is in sweats. You know, it's like,
right.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good point. You brought that up because I think we're all thrown off by that. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap up this episode of the Big Sky Now podcast. Join us again on Thursday. We'll break down this weekend's matchups, including probably the game of the year so far in the Big Sky, UC Davis versus Montana Grizz. That game is in Missoula. Should be a fun one. We'll break that down for you on Thursday. Thank you always to my panel, and we'll see you soon. Take care.